Hello everyone, here's Flutter in Quarantine, and today we're just about to learn how to use Firebase Authentication with Provider. But why am I going to use Provider? By using Provider, instead of manually writing inherit widget, you get simplified allocation, disposal of resources, lazy loading, a largely reduced boilerplate over making a new class every time, DevTools friendly, increases scalability for classes with a listening mechanism that grows exponentially in complexity. So maybe you're asking now, why the hell is he just about to teach me Provider? The answer is no. I'm just about to teach some basic uses of Provider. There are a lot of Provider types and ways to use Provider. But the first thing I wanted to focus here was to teach you how to use Firebase Authentication, and using Provider will make it easier and scalable, because you can believe me that when your app gets bigger, you definitely need Provider or block pattern. But today let's focus on the Firebase authentication, email and password with Provider. Maybe sometime I can come back here with some block pattern stuff. Just take along and maybe 4 videos, and we'll post on every day until we get the last one. I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe to my channel and like the video because it helps me a lot. Don't forget to pick your cup of coffee, and let's get started. So here I have my phone. I'm using a Redmi 7A. So you can use an Android emulator or iOS simulator because we're using Flutter. So that's the cool thing about Flutter. So just to get started, let's create a new project. So guys, just to get started, let's create our Flutter application. You can name it the name you want to. I'm gonna name it Flutter Authentication Provider. Yeah, that's too large, so yeah. And click on Next and finish. So our project has finally been created. And the first thing here is to delete this. And now you can see that we don't have our home. So just to get started, let's create some packages. Click on lib, new package, and the first package will be models. Let's create a new package named screens. And we need a screen here to emulate our app. So let's create a new Dart file. And this Dart file is gonna call sign up screen. Let's get started with sign up screen. Let's import the material, and we're gonna create a stateless widget. After we have created the sign up screen, we can go back in a man and import our sign up screen. After that, we're gonna open the pubspec and we're gonna import some package. You should import the same I am importing right now, because Firebase package always changes, and some features may changes a little bit, but please pick the same that I'm using right now, or maybe you can face some issues. After added this package, you have to click on pubget. If this message appeared in your screen, it means that everything is alright. But if there's any error, you can go back and watch it if you have typed something wrong. So let's go ahead. The next thing we need to do after close this letter open, we can create a Dart file in our models classes. Let's create a class called user data. In this user data, let's name class user data. And there are some information that we're going to need to retrieve and to upload to Firestore after the user has registered on our app. So the first thing we need is ID, email, password, and name. After we did this, we need to set this string. So do this. And then we need to get this information and set into Firestore. But let's do this right now, because if we go back later, it will take a long time. So let's do this now. First of all, let's insert all the information like email, name, and ID on Firestore. Remember that password won't be used. So what we did here, we call the document reference, get the Firestore ref, the Firestore instance, and we're gonna pass the users that will appear on Firebase and the ID of the user that we're going to retrieve later when the user sign up on our app. And after this, we need a method to save the name and email on our Firebase Firestore. So let's create a map and do this. So you're asking me why you're not passing the email, the password and the ID? Because the password, it doesn't belong to us. It must be safe, so we don't save it on Firestore. And the ID will be the name of our collection, and we'll see it later. And we're going to see it later when we update the user informations. So we already have called the document reference. So we already have created the method to put the ID of each user on a Firebase Firestore. But there is one thing that we didn't create yet, and is the method save info of the user, because we need to create this to send this information to the server. So please do the following. Okay, so what you are doing here, we are getting the Firestore ref. What is this Firestore ref? Is this one, and this one contains the ID of each user that is going to pass to users collections. So we have created the save info method to save it to map. So we're getting the name, the email, and saving into the Firebase. And the ID of the Firebase is gonna be the ID, the UID of each user. Maybe you don't get it now, but you get it later. So let's go ahead. And now we have to create a method to our users be able to authenticate with Firebase. So let's go to Models. Let's create a new Dart file. In this Dart file, we're gonna call it user authentication details. And let's create a class. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here is to call this user data to our user authentication details class. And how do we do that? User data user. Why do you call user data of user? Because we're gonna use a lot of this user data, and so we don't mess up the names. And now let's create a method to make the user able to create an account on our application. Before I start to create the method, we're going to use a try catch. But let me explain why you're using try catch. Because it may cause some errors while the user are trying to create an account in our app. So that's why we use try and catch. And then I get the function on fail, and if the user's register gets something wrong or any error occurs, it will give us, oh, let me fix this. It will give us the error that occurred. So we need to fill this. Up here, we can continue with auth result. And just to make things faster, let's create an instance of Firebase. And yeah, after that, we can continue to create the user account. And after I finish this, do you remember that I said that we could use in the same name here because we're gonna get the UID, so we have to change it. And the thing would be like that: user data dot ID equals to result dot user, that we're getting a user from here, and the UID. And now we're going to save into Firestore. Do you remember that we have created here the method save info? So we're gonna use it now. But how to bring this information from here to here? Simple. Just type user data dot save info. That's it. Pretty simple, don't you think? Yeah. So let's go ahead. So there is another method that we need to create it before move to the next screen, is to the login method. So why am I creating right now? Because it takes long and we should create it first to make things easier. Do you understand me? Let's go ahead. It's pretty much the same thing, the same method of doing a sign up. It's pretty easy. So we are passing an error message if something wrong happens. So you can check in your console if anything bad happens to your registration. And here we're gonna do this almost the same thing. Just change create a user with email password to sign in with email and password. So I think it's finally done here, and we can go on to the next. Oh, there's one thing left. After the user sign in, we need to check if the user is logged in, or it won't open the next screen. So to do that, let's get it done. Let's go ahead. So we're gonna create a load logged user method. So at this moment, we are trying to get the current user. So what we're going to do here, Firebase user, if it doesn't exist, it will do nothing. but let's await to auth current user, because if we don't put it here, it causes some crashes on the app. So if current user is not new, it will pass this information to, if the user is not new, so we're gonna get those information like the current user UID and pass this information to user data and notified listener. We are not using notified listener yet because we are not using provider, but you see it soon. So let's do that. Okay, so it's give us an error here, but yeah. So it's given us an error here because we didn't create it from document yet, but we're gonna call it soon. Just a second. And just to make everything clear, we're going to use provider. So we're gonna extend, let me see, change a notifier. Change a notifier. So when the user open the app, we need to check if the user is logged in. So bring this up here. Just a second. So let me check if everything is right. Only this. But when the user is logged in, we need to notify all the classes, all the app that a user is online, so he needs to move from login or sign up screen to the main screen. So what we do now, we use notify listeners. Yeah, we only need this. But let's fix this error here. I think it's here. Yeah, we need to, because we're using user data from document, but user data from document doesn't exist yet, so we need to create it. So when we close it, it may cause some errors. That's why I told you it's a dynamic. So here it is a string, but the Firebase recognizes it as a dynamic. So we need to pass it as string. Oh, it will crash. I think the arrow disappeared. So after we have created the user data method, what is pretty simple, and you can see it, you can stop the video, you can check what you have done because you're going to understand it pretty clear and it's pretty organized. You have the user authentication details. So we have created the sign method. Oh, and there's one thing here that we didn't called, and I think it is to check if the user is logged in. So let's call log the user, and inside of that, Firebase user result.user. And then we're going to call the method on success. So yeah, I think it's good right now. And let's see what we have done to you now. We have created and called the load logged user if the user is logged. We have instanced our Firebase and Firestar. We have catch the user data class. We have created the method signing. We have created the signup method and the load logged user, which is pretty simple. So if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.